Welcome to Split the Defense,
Split the Defense,
a Leafs, Avalanche, and NHL podcast. Hosted by Jordan Webster, Craig Pearce, and producer Ted Evans. Split the Defense is presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004, serving the Kingston and surrounding areas. Alongside co-host Craig Pearce and producer Ted Evans, here's your host, Jordan Webster.
Welcome to Split the Defense Hockey Podcast. I'm Webby alongside CP and producer Ted. Welcoming listeners from the greater Kingston area as we broadcast here from the Chumley's Kingston Tower of Power on Amherst Island Radio 101.3 FM, CJAI, and CJAI.CA. Before we get going here, if you're watching on the internet, please take a second and like this episode. Subscribe to our YouTube, rate it 5 stars on whatever podcasting platform you may be consuming from. So we're going to talk Leafs. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple other Canadian teams, and then we will talk Avs and finish off the time with whatever else we have. So let's start with the Leafs, boys. The first question I wanted to ask, after Ryan Reaves hadn't played since December, he was off for a month, and he's been hurt for maybe half of that time. So he's been practicing, he's been playing, and he hasn't been on the team. Yeah. After watching him adjust back in that one game, we have a week off, we have lots of time to speculate. Does Ryan Reaves have a spot on this team?
If we see what we saw in our last game, then yeah, for sure. I'm just not convinced that that's what we get every single time he plays. You know, like I'm sure that's the best that we'll get from him. Like he must have wanted to make a good impression on Keefe, try and get in the lineup again. So I'm not expecting any better than what we just saw. If he brings that, then yeah, there's 100% a spot on the roster for him. So I guess it just depends. Like what's a guy his age with that amount of miles, hard miles, like what's he got left in the tank? If he can do it, then yeah, I want him on this team. I think I go back to everything that we said in the summer, and I think it all still applies. You know, like we don't necessarily need like goals from him. I know he scored, but don't expect that
Probably
on a regular basis.
Probably the most beautiful goal of his career. I've looked back, but that was amazing. The hard forecheck, stand in front, tip one in. That was beautiful, Ryan Reaves. Vintage. For sure.
So, I mean, we're not asking that of him. We're asking him to do all of the other things that we saw that other than the goal. You know, be in on the forecheck, make a physical presence. When you're out there and anything happens, like be the first guy in to jump in. I think all those things are the important things he brings. So, yeah, like I 100% want him on this roster. I just... After the, months that he's been on this team, there's been, he's played a lot of games and, he sat out a lot of games and yes, some for injury, but like you said, like half of the time he's been out, he's been kind of ready to go. So, yeah, I think that it's funny. I don't know if it was like because of the injuries or because he was voicing his opinion to the media or it's both. Either way, he got in the lineup and yeah, I was definitely impressed. Yeah.
Okay, so Ted, is there room for a guy like Ryan Reaves, a tough guy who doesn't bring very much else, on a Stanley Cup championship roster? And do you have a player comparison from the Avs Cup-winning team?
From the Cup-winning team? I guess McDermott was there, wasn't he? Maybe that's a guy I would consider similar to Reaves on the Avs.
So Ryan Reaves needs to learn to play defense.
Yeah,
he needs to be able to play any position on the ice.
Yeah, McDermott can do both. Yeah, I'm sure he could play goaltender too.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, loose knees Reaves. Strap on those pads. No, that's funny though. But yeah, I think McDermott comparable, obviously. And is there a place? I think so, because when injuries happen and other things, if you've got a guy that can slot in there and do things and fill roles, then yeah, he's useful, valuable.
I think the better comparison is to the Tampa Bay team because they just had that fourth line that like Maroon was on that team. I guess actually that was after the Cup run, wasn't it, Maroon? But they've had a an identity of a fourth line that's mean, right? Avs have typically been more of they're using their fourth line as like a not a scoring line, but like kind of. I don't know. It's different on the Avs fourth line, I think, on that cup, if I'm remembering correctly.
Maroon was
But-
there for a cup because he went the three-peat, remember?
Oh, yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he's more of the identity than maybe McDermott, who I would give him more credit than the Reeves. But, yeah.
Fair.
Okay, boys. This is the best part. All right. Is there anything better than beating the Jets, guys? Leafs win both games of the home-and-home series. 1-0 in the first game. Sammy gets the shutout. Leafs win 4-2 in the second game, but really it was 3-1 with some extracurriculars.
Yeah.
It was Samsonov going .961 for his save percentage.
Unreal.
And Matty scoring in both games that led the team to the 2 victories. Now, CP, I know you remember this.
Hey boys, is there anything better than beating the Leafs? Hey? Anything better? This goes to this guy.
Like, that's so embarrassing.
Okay, so you remember that moment, all right? Since that moment in Winnipeg, when Mark Scheifele announced, is there anything better than beating the Leafs? The Winnipeg Jets have not beaten the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Of course not.
Amazing.
So in those games, it's been a 7-3 Leafs win, a 4-1 Leafs win, a 4-1 Leafs win, then the 1-0 and the 4-2 that just happened. Did he curse them with that, or is that one of those moments where you can't say those kinds of things on camera?
Yeah, like I'm not a real big superstitious guy, but I do believe in karma. And like that's
Yeah.
just to me like, oh man, I hope that they get to relive that every time they come back to town. And obviously I want the Leafs to continue the winning streak, but they deserve every moment of it.
So
yeah.
funny. It must be sweet if the wins are so few and far between against the Leafs. Like, geez, is there anything better? Well, I guess
I don't
not if
know
you
what
can't
the-
do it for that long. Like,
Have you
I
ever
don't
heard
know
of
what the-
67? Like, and the best
boy.
thing is beating the Leafs. Like, oh my god,
I know.
come on.
I don't know what
Yeah.
the record was before that game and that happened, but I do remember the one game where Patrick Laine had a hat trick and the Leafs were up like 4-1 or 4-0, and they there's maybe even 5-1, something stupid, up 4 goals I think, and they blew that lead to the Jets and the Jets won. So there is that. I don't really know how much they are going to be able to beat the Leafs after this with Mark Scheifele on the team with that lump on his throat every single time he steps onto the ice. Poor guy. Poor
He
guy.
wasn't injured the last 2 games. He just didn't want to face the music.
No, absolutely. So that was fun. Yeah, Leafs took both of those. That was honestly something that we really needed to see from the Leafs. We came into those 2 games, and as I said in the post-game pod, that we really judged. I was here, and a bunch of people were here to judge the Leafs on this 2-game series, and people laughed that they might even get 1 point, right? And they came out with 4 of 4 points, right? You can't get much better than that. They went home and home series. I mean, they took over the other team's barn, and their other team took over their barn, which is completely unusual, and they still came out and they won both of those games. Big 2 points for the Leafs. Any closing thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets series, CP?
I think actually we want to refer to something that James Myrtle said today, and it's that it's a really big display of how there's not a big gap between the best team, like the top 3 teams, and like the wild card teams. And so I think that was kind of the message. Is we've been clamoring because we've dropped to a wild card, but the Jets aren't a way better team than Toronto is. And I think that was the lesson that I learned. We didn't even necessarily get the best out of the Leafs. We haven't in basically 2 or 3 weeks now. It seems like maybe this is, who they are now is more, what we're seeing. But yeah, I think that was the biggest message that I got from those 2 is that it would be amazing if you're playing some of those West Coast teams that people are so scared of, but if you're gonna play one of those teams, you're in a pretty solid situation, right? So, yeah, I think that's what it's shown to me, and I think that it kind of gives me a little more hope in this Leafs team. not just based on if the wins, but just how close the games were. And, man, we're able to pull out 4 points out of the 2 games. So, yeah, I think I'm more hopeful for many reasons. I think I don't know if we maybe didn't get the best version of Winnipeg. Like you said, Scheifele wasn't playing, but I think that it was, their whole team isn't one guy, especially Winnipeg. Like they're kind of a by committee team, right? Like Scheifele's not this stand off the page superstar, so I think it was, great measuring
No,
stick
but he
game.
did just ink an $8.5 million deal.
Yeah, for sure. But that's kind of the most money he's ever going to make. It's not like he's kind of like a Jack Hughes who's, like on a bottom dollar for what you get out of him. Like, I don't know if you get
Still
eight and
a
a
lot of
half.
money.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But it's
Not
kind of
for
like
one player.
the situation. He's never been a superstar. He's been one of the most consistent point per game players. But I'm not sure if he's ever cracked 90 points, or if he has, it's very few times. So yeah, I think that their trade with Pierre-Luc Dubois was the best thing for that team, because like that's a guy who's playing on the 4th line in LA most nights, and they got a bunch of players that are really contributing to this team. So like Iafallo and Velarde, like 2 very important players there, and I think that there's a case where you're forced into a trade and they're coming out on the better side of it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. Trade deadline is coming up, and everybody's going to want to make moves. And the prices are only going to start going up, and the talks are only going to start getting louder. So we will be listening in to see who's interested and who. We've talked a lot about that already here.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing I want to get into here is kind of Leafs related, because the Leafs are headed into the NHL All-Star break, so they're off this week. And then they have the All-Star Game and All-Star Skills competition next weekend, and that is in Toronto. So I thought now would be an appropriate time to talk about it, because we have Austin Matthews and William Nylander of the host Toronto Maple Leafs leading a group that is made up of the Colorado Avalanche center Nathan MacKinnon and defenseman Cale Makar, Oilers centers Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, Tampa Bay Lightning forward Nikita Kucherov, and from the Devils Jack Hughes, Boston Bruins David Pasternak, and Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, who will be competing in the skills competition. That's like every dope player in the league, right?
Yeah.
That's
Honestly.
awesome.
Oh,
That's
for
the
sure.
way it's supposed to be. So
Yes.
instead of, this is from NHL.com, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of this. Instead of spreading out 44 All-Stars among events to make sure each NHL team is represented like as in the past, 12 players will now compete for an overall skills championship.
Yeah.
This is just getting cooler by the second. This is
Yeah.
probably going to be the coolest NHL skills competition we've seen in a while. Guys, I
100%.
haven't watched in years. I'm
Yeah.
not
Not me
going to
either.
miss a second. I have tuned in here and there,
Yep.
but religiously watched it? No.
No, yeah.
I'm going to be following this. This is
Yeah.
insane. So here's a quote from the NHL head of content, Steve Mayer. He says, "We want to find 12 guys who are going to be engaged, who are also the most skilled players in our league, who are also big personalities, and who are going to go really hard to win the title." So he thinks that all 12 of these guys are A, dope, B, have big personalities, and C,
interesting.
are going to be going for it. So he
Yeah.
thinks there's going to be actual competition in this. So, do you guys understand how it works already? Because I have it here broken down. If you do, grin and bear it. We're going to go through it really quick.
Yeah.
Each event, each person will compete in 4 of the first 6 events.
Right.
The NHL's fastest skater, the hardest shot, the stick handling, there's one-timers, there's a passing challenge, and then an accuracy shooting challenge. It's Cheetos NHL accuracy shooting challenge. I wonder if they have the Cheetos all over their mitts. But
Oh my God.
first place in those competitions will be worth 5 points. Second place, 4 points, and so on. The top 8 will advance to the 7th event, the Honda NHL Shootout. The 7th event is so cool, Mayer said. 8 players will line up on one blue line, 8 goalies will line up on the other, and the players, one by one, from 8th to 1st, will pick the goalie he wants to go up against.
Oh man.
Who will pick whom? And How much will it level the standings? Again, first place will be worth 5 points, second place 4 points, and so on. It'll end with the guy in first place getting the hardest goalie, or at least the one that's left, Mayor said. The top 6 will advance to the final and 8th event, the obstacle course. In this event, it will include all skills.
Yeah.
It will be worth double the points. So first place will be worth 10 points, and second place will be worth 8 points, and so on. So, realistically, mathematically, somebody who is in 6th could easily jump up and win the $1 million in the end. So there could be competition through 3, 4, 5 guys to the very end.
I love that.
What are your thoughts on that, guys?
I'm excited for the picking the goalies thing. I think that's one of my most interesting, like the parts I'm most interested to see is like who these guys are going to choose. Like, are we going to see guys choose their own goalie from their own team because they know how to beat him in practice?
Yeah,
and they're just
they know
having
the
fun
recipe.
anyways. It's like, oh man, there's going to be some good ones.
I think they should have gone 1 to 8 though. I don't like that they're trying to level the playing field. Like this is
going
for
8 to
$1
1.
million here. It should be if you have the advantage of your first, you get to pick first. And like this just reminds me of like the participation trophy of this era. It's just, oh my god. Let's just get the best. We're heading in a right direction here, All-Star team or the NHL. This like the way they've set this up is awesome. So that just seems like one little hiccup to me. Like I want the best to get the best to be like, wouldn't you want to come like third then maybe in the first round? Like I know it's hard to kind of
thing.
Yeah, but don't you want them to be their best?
So what about fantasy? What about you play NHL fantasy? And we all do that. And like, do you necessarily want to be somewhere down by the bottom, or do you want to be somewhere in the middle? Do you really want to be up top and have all the pressure? I mean, that's kind of always the thing. Like, look at the Boston Bruins of last year in the NHL. They're the tops, they're the pressure.
But you don't get to pick.
By the 8th seed. No, but that stuff happens. So when you have these little curveballs of now this happens, I mean, nobody saw Alex Lyon heating up enough for the Florida Panthers to get there. That's the little curveball you're getting to pick.
But it seems I'm going to use your same argument though. If you came first, it's like you have to play the other first place team, and it's just like, well, then why would I want to be first? It's like then I want to be 8th if I get to play the 8th place team in the playoffs. You know, that's how it seems. It's not a big deal though. I don't think it's all of these goalies will be amazing.
So far, you can't be 8th. You're probably going to want to sit around 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be 8th for sure.
Because if you're down lower, then you have no chance at the $1 million. You probably want to try and get 2nd or 3rd. You know what I mean? Like 3rd, 4th, maybe somewhere in that mushy middle. But I mean, you're right. That's an idea of maybe a little bit of a hiccup. But I do like it. I like the fact that now it's like, well, I haven't done the best. But like, which one of these players are you going to say, well, he didn't deserve it? They're all dope.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah,
we love them all.
That's the only other thing
when they get
that.
there, you're going to be like, it was so close, probably so close. And then now this guy gets a little advantage, right? And you're like, yes.
Because
and
they're
now,
talking about leveling the playing field of 12 dope players, not just like
12 of the best, too.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And also, I want to argue against myself, too. And like if you're the first place, you don't have to pick, right? And maybe there's an advantage in that. Or like you're not forced into actually making a decision of who you're going against. Maybe that's messes with your mind a little bit. If it's just like a regular shootout, and it's just that's the goalie I have to go against.
Yeah,
there could be that, but also it's kind of a crapshoot because now it's like calling your shot at the same time. Like, do you really have the cojones to be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this guy, and then you don't?
Right.
You're like,
yeah.
Oh crap.
Yeah.
Like
first
I
pick
feel
could
like
be
the
a major
least amount of
embarrassment.
pressure on a player is going to be the player who picks last because he's not going to get a choice and he's the only one who's forced with fate, right?
For sure.
The other guys
exactly
are all even the second last guy. I think he's going to have the worst time. Like, oh god, I got a 50-50 chance. Like, what if I could beat one of these guys and I just don't? And I'm going to pick. Like, all right, I'm going to try this guy and. You never know, right? I think that's where the idea stands, right? So, like, I mean, the last guy, he's now got to have the most pressure, and I think it also kind of deters that widening of the playing field, which Gary, he loves his parody.
I know, and I hate Gary.
You got to keep it all in. So it all makes sense, and I think it fits within the parameters of appeasing us
NHL.
fans and staying in the NHL's border of how they operate and what they do.
Yeah.
But it's still
Being the
more
worst
fun and
league ever.
exciting for us as fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Better
Now,
viewing
and-
experience, I guess, in the end. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously we said 12 of the best, and they're all really good. I mean, there's no player here that stands out as a bad player or a really good. They're all really good. So what do you guys think? There's anyone going to actually like dominate this whole competition, just be right on the top the whole way through, or do you think
So-
it is going to be pretty evened out?
There's a few in this list that like
Here, let me
I don't
read the
know.
list off again. Yeah, it's Nylander and Matthews. It's McKinnon and Makar. It's McDavid and Draisaitl, Kucherov, Jack Hughes, Pasternak, and Pettersson.
Wow.
And that's only 10. There's going to be 12.
Right. Those are the 10 though. Those guys
Those
are for
are the
sure
first
in it.
10. Yes.
Okay.
The NHL announced Saturday the first 10.
So I mean, I think two jump off the page for me that I think will be standouts. And one might be like maybe it's a long shot and a homer pick, but
Oh,
I think that my first one, which is not a homer pick, is Nikita
McDavid.
Kucherov. He's one of the most well-rounded players in the NHL. I think he's not a passer, he's not a shooter, he's both. So that's one to look out for. And then William Nylander, who we know that if there's money on the line, he's going to be one of the best players in the NHL. So if this was for no money, he'd come last because once he
Yeah,
got
we
his
do have the
has his
proof.
money.
That's a
But
hell of a
I know
take,
the
CP.
guy. He will be after $1 million, I tell you.
that's hilarious.
I'll take that and run with it. If you had to pick one or two guys, who would you pick, Ted?
Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar.
Easy
You
answer
you
there.
rolled your eyes when I said homer pick.
I know. I wanted to hit
So,
you with that.
There's just something
But honestly,
about it.
I think McDavid and McKinnon are going to be two big standouts. Like really.
There's something about him. I was gonna go on McKinnon for this, but I can add McDavid into it because he's the best. These two are
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure, I think, and maybe because
Sure.
they're the best, they're gonna be pulled more. They're gonna be stretched thinner. They're gonna be asked to do more things. More people are going to stop them. They're going to be more distracted, and I wonder how much. Like Nate McKinnon is going to obviously. He's an animal and he's super fast, but is he the guy that's going to zone in and luck out? Because are you sure the best player all the time always wins this? I always was looking for like the guy who might not be the best, or the guy who you kind of everybody doubts. And my
Right.
two picks are Cale Makar and Elias Pettersson.
Nice.
And that's who I
Nice.
thought they're kind of underwhelming. And when I saw
Hey.
that, I thought, those two guys,
Hey.
they may be.
Yeah.
I think Cale Makar, because he's a defenseman, everybody's kind of they're doubting
Sure.
what he's going to be
See
able to do
that.
for everything. But he's so good.
He
that
could
I
play
think
for
we're
it
gonna-
if they asked him
Easy.
Yeah.
to.
Oh, he absolutely could play forward if they asked him
Yeah.
to. Yeah, but then absolutely. So that's my two picks. But yeah, we're gonna have a great group there, and still two more names to come for the NHL All-Star competition in Toronto. That is coming on next weekend. That's the February, like the 2nd or something.
wonder who the other
We're
two-
already in February.
Yeah.
Holy Moses!
I wonder if
So
like the one thing that I was gonna, it's funny, I was just about to say like this, like a name jumped out on me on the page there, and then I was just like, wait, if I look at any of these names, they jump out on the page at me. So I think like it could just be any of these guys. Like
I know. Every time
Yeah.
you read through them again, you're like, well, him. Oh, well,
Yeah.
him. Oh, well, him
Yeah.
though too.
I'm excited to see what Jack Hughes does though. He's an exciting player just in
Yeah.
general. I love watching him play hockey. So yeah, I would like to see what he does. But also maybe it's one of the two that we don't know that are in it yet. So
Yeah.
true. It'll be
Yeah.
hidden
Mystery
third
player.
option.
yeah.
There you go. All right, lads. Well, now it's time for.
North of the Blue Line.
So things aren't all peaches and cream for Sens Nation lately. They got a new coach. They got a new owner.
Kind
They
of.
got a
A new
bunch
old
of new
coach.
players.
Yeah.
They got a new goalie, and they still suck. And Sens fans were taking offense to a tweet the other day that was posted by Sportsnet Stats. It says, the Senators are allowing an NHL worst 4 goals per game since Jacques Martin took over as head coach. So, somebody posted in that tweet that that's an out-of-context stat. Actually, I believe it was the Locked On Leafs podcast. Shout out to Locked On Leafs. Maybe, or Locked On Sens, sorry. There's Locked On Leafs as well. There's Locked On Oilers, there's Locked On, there's a whole network. But those guys are great. They were very kind in explaining to me what's going wrong over there. So the out-of-context part of it is the fact that the team has gotten better. It's just the goalie that stinks.
Right.
In 6 straight games of letting less than 30 shots on goal, he's got an .883 save percentage in that time. So Graham Nichols compiled the numbers, he put in a tweet, after Steos availability earlier in the week, and it took time for Martin to break the bad results. So for all these stats that we like to measure how good a team is, and that's Corsi 4, shots 4, expected goals 4, percentages, Corsi against per 60, shots against per 60, expected goals against per 60. The Sens were middling or worse when they were under DJ. They were 19th in Corsi 4, 15th in shots 4, 22nd in expected goals 4, 20th in Corsi against per 60, 19th in shots against per 60, and expected goals against per 60 was 16th. Then they got under Jacques, and things didn't get better quickly. So for Corsi 4 under Jacques in his first 18 games, it was 19th to 13th, 15th to 14th for shots 4. Expected goals 4 was 22nd to 20th. Corsi against per 60 was 20th to 21st. They got worse. Shots against went from 19th to 24th. They got worse. Expected goals against per 60 went from 16th to 29th. They got worse. But since January 13th, for all those stats, Corsi 4, they're second in the league. Shots 4, they're first in the league. Expected goals 4 percentage, they're second in the league. Corsi against per 60, they're fourth in the league. Shots against per 60, they're fifth in the league. Expected goals against per 60, they're first in the league. And they still stink. So they chalk it up to Korpisalo's struggles. So what I'd like to ask you guys is, Jonas Korpisalo's 2-7-0 in his last 10 during that time. 3.85 save goals against and an .877 save percentage. It really reminds me of Jack Campbell, you know, the high-value goaltender. They just signed this guy, and now what are they going to do with him because he can't play? So I'd like to ask, what do you do about the goalie problem? Do you A, buy him out? Do you B, send him to the AHL? You can't keep playing him, can they?
I mean, they've. I'm looking at his games right now, and like he has mixed in like a 960 and like a 930 and 920, but then there's like a 765 and a 778. So like this guy has a hint of like the Samsonov bug, where you know he's either really good or he's really bad. So I don't know. Korpisalo is interesting because he's never been an amazing goalie. In Columbus, he was a guy that, they obviously lost a lot of games, but got a lot of shots on net, and his numbers weren't horrible, is kind of my opinion of him, but never like a goalie of the future, I didn't think. So, like, I don't know what you do with him. Buyout is not the answer, because that just, for a guy that you just got here and committed to, then I think that you have to let it run at least this season. And I don't know what the Sens fans had in mind when they brought back Jacques Martin. I can't say his name. The old head coach. Jacques Martin.
Martin. Yeah,
Since I don't know what they expected. He hasn't been a head coach in well over a decade. I know he's been an assistant coach, but that's not like running
good
a
old
team.
Jack Martin.
Yeah. He's so English about it. But yeah, I think that like this is a lost season. I don't think that they should expect anything else. And if they were looking to be way better this year, he wouldn't have been the coach they brought back. Let's just like there was better coaches available, and more recent coaches. You could have just gone with an AHL coach that is at least like a head coach somewhere. That would have been a better like way to go if you wanted to win now. I don't think that's what the mindset of the owner is right off the hop. Probably they want to win next year. And if that is their kind of mindset, then like they're going about it pretty wrong, I think, in my opinion. So I think that you kind of have to like is their other guy Sogard or what's their other
or Forsberg. Well, Anton
Forsberg he got pulled
injured,
tonight.
Right. Is he back or is he injured or
no, the first guy I said he was playing
Sogard.
tonight.
That's Sogard.
Yeah, and he got pulled tonight. And like Korpisalo's now, he hasn't let one in after 11 shots. So and like the goals that he let in, like Chabot just got walked tonight. Like he like totally, and that's like one of the best skaters in the league. So like, is there more going on here? Chabot used to be able to carry like 30 minutes and like be one of the best metric guys in the league. And now he's like has a less of a workload, better defensemen around him, but just not seem to be benefiting him in particular. So there might be there's way too much offense, I think, on their blue line. Like they got to mix it up. They got 3 number 1 power play guys. So I think that and like they're playing that route of playing left shots on the right side. So I think that I'm not totally just.
Can I ask you? Are you insinuating that the Ottawa Senators went into the rebuild and forgot about defense?
I mean, they didn't forget about it because they drafted a great defenseman in Sanderson. They went and got a great defenseman in Jacob Chychrun. It's just like you got like 3 guys now that like I guess Chabot and Chychrun are like more of two-way players, but they're playing on the same line together and they're not doing so hot. So like it's a chemistry issue. I think it's not a talent issue. And it seems like since the coaching switch, the offense is clicking a bit better. Like that's what those numbers say to me is that like the percentage wise is that they're getting more percentage of shots and of chances, but in total they're giving up more. So like it's a more free flowing type of a play. So I don't know. I don't know if the coach was the best decision. And I don't think that your hands are kind of tied for this year for the goalie. I think if someone could take him, then sure, you would trade him away. But I don't think anyone's going to take him by the numbers. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think they just screwed up when they got rid of Gustafsson. Like they had an amazing goalie there and they traded him away. And it's been kind of a mash since then. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So you just talked about Jacob Chychrun. He's a perfect D-man for a lot of teams. You think the Ottawa Senators are going to sell, and do you think they're going to move on a guy like Jacob Chychrun?
It's interesting. I think that yes, they have to move on from someone. I think that one of these 3, it's not going to be Jake Sanderson. Thomas Chabot, like, if you really wanted to make a change up in the locker room, that I think would be the more of a shakeup. And it would be, I think, easier to move Chychrun probably. So I don't know. One of the 3 have to go, and one you're just not going to move. So I think Chabot or Chychrun, yes, one of them. I think by trade deadline, one will be traded.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that's all we're going to do now for time. So thank you, and that's it for now. For
North of the Blue Line.
Okay, so producer Ted's favorite segment, the Colorado Avalanche. Let's check in and see how our friends down south are doing. They have made a signing, producer Ted. We have got to talk about that. Zach Parise signed with the Avs. The left winger inked an $825,000 one-year contract.
Yeah,
so,
I like it.
Are you happy about that? He's 39 years old, 1,224 games played, 111 in the playoffs. He's got over 900 points. The Avs are very familiar with Parise, with him having spent 9 seasons with the Minnesota Wild. 13-year, $98 million contract that was signed by him, bought
Lord.
out a couple of years ago. You think that's the end of a guy's career? It's not. He went and played 2 seasons with the Islanders. Oh, yeah, Parise was on the Islanders. Holy crap, he played all 82 regular season games, even 6 playoff games with them, and he scored 21 goals last year, 15 the year before. Only 34 points, not a huge passing, obviously, but 21 goals. That's amazing for a guy like Zach Parise and what they're paying him. So Jack Johnson was asked about it, and he was quoted. He said he liked the signing and was quoted saying, "You can't have enough Zach Parises in your locker room." So I don't know what that means, but that's got to be good things, right? So his role on the island was third line with dual special teams usage. Where does he fit here in Denver, Ted? How much power play time do you expect him to get? Does he get any on the PK? What are you seeing for Parise?
I like 5-on-5. He's bottom 6, obviously. I mean, but then I think he's going to be more a penalty kill guy for us. Our power play, our both units are pretty set. Even the second unit looks pretty hot. So I don't really see, we're doing the 3 defensemen on that second unit thing right now. I don't see, I don't know. I don't see Parise slotting in the power play, but penalty kill for sure. And he's going to be one of those guys in that bottom 6 like we had on the cup winning team, like Darren Helm and Cogliano back there. And, this older guy with a bit of experience. And no, he doesn't put up, a ton of points, but does he score? Yeah, he still can score. Can he be there like on the penalty kill? Yeah, he can kill penalties. So, yeah, I like this signing a lot.
Yeah, so like if he's not getting any power play time, you got to wonder how much if he's, did he get power play time with the Islanders? What was his place there?
Yeah, he did.
If he was getting dual special teams usage, that obviously means he was seeing power play time. Even if it's PP2 time, I'm sure that contributed to some of his 21-goal season last year.
Sure, yeah.
So he's 39. Are you worried about his age or then some play regression? And 21's awesome last year, but again, with a limited role and his age creeping up, are you worried at all about this signing being in your bottom 6?
No, not really. I mean, I think we use him as much as we need to, kind of thing. We don't, he's there. He's signed. Yeah, I don't think there's anything to worry about. Like, it's not like we're putting too much on his shoulders. He'll be there and he'll do the Zach Parise thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
think
that's fair.
For the money, you could send him down. If it doesn't work out, it is what it is. I think that a lot of teams probably could have taken a shot on Parise, just based on he's coming in at such a low number. If it doesn't work, you just scratch him. I'm sure he's going to be a vet about being on someone like Colorado, where the chances couldn't be better, I think, to win another cup. So I think that he's picked a good spot to kind of give it a shot. And as a 4th line player, I think, it's worth a shot for sure, especially experience. And he was part of the New Jersey team that kind of had a certain identity to it. Like, he wasn't always with Minnesota. He got that contract because of how he played elsewhere. I think that he's a good guy, even though they wanted him out of the room in Minnesota. I never heard anything about it being because he wasn't a good guy. It was because they wanted a new identity there. It was like a new wave of players. They wanted to move on with their rebuild. And so, and like playing in somewhere like the Island, Lou has certain standards and he met them. So, yeah, I think it's a great signing for them.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes sense. You have to look at Colorado this year and think that they have to be the most active team at trying to get better. How many more teams have given out more PTOs or tryouts? Maybe Carolina's given a couple, but I don't think anybody's taken more risks just even to start free agency and some of the signings they made with Drouin and Tatar, who didn't work out and they've moved on from since, but they've taken a lot of bets this year.
It's true.
And, that says one thing, that obviously they aren't happy with where they are, but it also says that they're actively trying to get better, which is something you want to see from your hockey team, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that they're not going out and looking for big, crazy signings or anything that's going to, blow the roof off the place. But these guys like Zach Parise, for $825, why not, right? And these things, it's like placing these little bets like you like to do, Webby. Place
Yeah,
a little
little
bet, and if it
$2.
hits, hey, $635 or whatever from $3. That's great.
Yeah, so I know I hit a massive bet last night, boys. Let's get off topic a little bit here. Holy big bet. Thank you, Detroit Lions, for going up early and then blowing it. I got the early payout. One of those little $3 hit for me, Ted. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Paid off for me. It's been paying off for the Avs. The Avs have been taking the bets. They've been getting payoff on them. I mean, that Giroux looks good. They have a couple other ones that look good, guys in the bottom six. Even, I mean, like Miles Wood has performed well. I mean, he's taken a bunch of penalties, but besides that, he's performed well.
Yeah, he's figuring it
to
out.
his expectation. His contract's not killer. If you could ask if you wanted Miles Wood or David Kampf, what would you take? I don't know. I think it'd be a pretty good toss up there. So it's not like the Leafs don't have one on the same side right there, CP. So the next guy I wanted to talk about was Logan O'Connor.
Oh,
He's on pace for 20 goals.
Pretty
20
amazing.
goals from Logan from what? LOC.
Yeah, what?
Man, the guy's got a 6-game recent point streak that it ended. He's off the streak, but he was on a 6-game point streak. He's got multi-points like every other game lately. And how about his 2 goals against the Kings?
Oh my God. Both of those goals were like highlight reel goals. They were just such a shot. He had such a nice shot. Mark Rycroft from Altitude was calling him Logan O'Sakic because of the release. Oh my God. He's going, there's not another release like that other than Sakic. We haven't seen. It was so funny. He was so high on him that night.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So
But we all
because
were.
he had a bit of a slow start, he's really come off and been showing with the points. He's only got 24 points on the season, which isn't nothing. It's a half a point per game, but he really has been popping off lately. Like if he did this at the beginning of the season, you'd be looking at a completely different. We'd be looking at LOC as a completely different player. So up to this point, are you happy with what LOC has been bringing to the table, even though he started slow?
Yeah. Yeah, even with that slow start he had early in the season, he had those 3 games in a row where he scored a shorthanded goal, and I knew there was something special there. You know, I was like, there's something going on with Logan O'Connor. He might not put up a ton of points or, but now that he's on pace for 20, like that's unexpected from a guy like him. And to see it happen,
Unbelievable.
it's unbelievable. Yeah. To see it happen is crazy. Just how I don't know if it's through injuries. He's got up onto the second line. We've seen him all over the lines. Every line I think he's played on this year. And seeing him scoring shorthanded goals, scoring all over the ice. It's amazing.
Yeah, Logan O'Connor.
Yeah.
Must be nice to get all the nice shiny things down there in Denver. I wish I could watch more Avs hockey. I don't know why they have to play at 9 p.m. That's a stupid time zone thing or whatever. I'm not really sure how all that works.
And
I
on
know.
channels I don't get.
I was told there'd be no math. Yeah, channels too. That's a problem. It's not broadcasted well unless you buy the package. It's like I work in NHL hockey.
Yeah.
Then you buy, then
I
you
don't have
every
that.
game. But yeah, no, it's hard to get the Avs games here in Ontario and Kingston. It's not good for us Avs fans here in Kingston. Now we are obviously Toronto Maple Leafs fans, CP, but I'm an Avs fan and
Yeah.
Ted's an Avs fan. Now
Yeah.
Ted goes to www.steel.com and he just finds
Basically.
Oh,
So-
Essentially.
yeah,
shots
basically.
fired.
Yeah, and he's just like, you know what, viruses, I don't care. I'll wear a mask, and it's all gonna.
That's
be
why I have
fine.
this cheap
need a
laptop.
VPN.
I can just
Yeah.
stream games. And
Yeah,
if
he
it,
just throws laptops in the
dies-
garbage. Just like whatever, need more abs.
yeah, it's worth it. It's cheaper than the streaming package.
Yeah.
Um,
We need a VPN sponsor here so you can help Ted out.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
That's so
Okay,
true.
Ted, can you tell us about Avs prospect Callum Ritchie? He's been lighting up the OHL again.
Yes, yeah, he had another crazy game just before the weekend. He had another 4-point night, which is always nice to see. He plays for the Oshawa Generals in the OHL. 44 points in 26 games this guy has.
Pretty good.
Obviously
pretty
a good draft pick. He had slid down the draft a bit, but this kid's showing some signs of being like a real hot, a hot hand, like a guy who can come in and put up points.
He's
but I
big
don't know.
too.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He had that little bit of injury trouble. That's kind of why he slid down, but I don't think there's much to worry about right now.
How do the Avs get a player like that? He's drafted the second round, and they sold their first picks. I mean, they've been in every
I think
year
he was
on everything.
early
and,
second.
like, how did?
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
saying like where did he get drafted? How does this happen? And why does
Yeah.
I mean, we got Matthew Nyes, I guess, and he looks great. But at the same time, it's you don't see it very much. And the Avs are loaded, and they have a cup, and they're looking like they could repeat. No, yeah, by the way, they have a pipeline too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, actually,
Yeah.
he was a first-round draft pick, 27th.
27th. Okay.
Ah,
Yeah.
Right. Fair.
okay. Was
That makes
the
sense.
Avs
And
pick?
yeah, and
Yep.
but yeah, he was projected a lot higher originally, and then slid way down
Oh,
because
but they missed out because they could have had Easton Cowan. One pick. Oh, they missed out. You know, who's I'm gonna argue looked better, but
There's no Easton Cowan, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
oh my
Yeah,
god, I saw a
absolutely.
highlight from Fraser Minton today that was pretty awesome. Might have been from a couple days ago, but it was a slick goal in overtime. He went end to end.
nice.
So-
I like that.
So how quickly do you see this kid on the team? Is he going to come up? Is he going to play? Or do you think possibly we see him being shipped off while the Avs are still in the win now mode, and he goes and plays somewhere else?
I've
I
heard
don't know,
kind of talk
Calgary.
about that. I kind of
Need to get Lindholm somehow, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Yeah.
gonna be expensive.
I know. So yeah, he could be
Lindholm
one
ain't
of
gonna
these
be cheap.
things that we never see don an Avs jersey. One of these prospects that we're excited for, but then we're like, like you said, we got a pipeline of players, good players coming in. He's not the only one. We got a lot of prospects that we're liking, and people we've, other guys too. We've signed, but not necessarily signed. If I could transition into Ivan. And
Yes,
that's-
absolutely. So 21-year-old Ivan of the Colorado Eagles. His name is fully Ivan. It's not actually that. He's got 7 points in his last 6 in the AHL. So the thing is, he still doesn't have a contract in the NHL. He's just running on an AHL contract, meaning the Avs don't technically own his rights. Anybody could swoop him up and take him. Do you think
Yeah.
his play is warranted an NHL contract? Do you think you should be concerned that somebody else feels his play has warranted an NHL contract?
I don't know. This was a guy who he got a lot more looks than was expected, like in the the preseason and the training camps and stuff. And he earned himself more time and kept staying there. And Bednar was giving him praise. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think they kind of got to be careful maybe with how much praise they give him, I guess, and how much we share. Hey, look at our Colorado
Yeah.
Eagle guy that we haven't signed, doing really well. So. I don't know. Maybe by the end of the season, or do we let it go to next? I don't know. If he keeps this pace up, sign him.
The one thing
Yeah,
is
he
like
can
he
play.
he has 18 and 36 in the AHL.
Right. The
Um,
rest of it isn't great, but this exactly.
But
so he's not.
I'm
like
looking at his
high.
But
numbers.
he's got to
though.
put it together at some point. At one point, things just started to pop off, and this could be that one point.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I was just gonna say he didn't get drafted because he only had 22 points in 62 games in his first year in the OHL. But
Right.
then he goes on to get 65 and 65, and then he
Right.
gets 90 and 64.
Bit of a
and-
bloomer maybe then.
Yeah, and so now he's first shots at pro hockey. So what can you expect from a guy who's on the smaller side and and is growing and it learns how to play in each league? So it took him 3 years to figure out how to be one of the best OHLers. So maybe in 2 or he's not going to be in there this year, but
Yeah.
next year
But-
maybe you can give him a shot, but probably more like the year after he could turn into something actually good. But you got to give him a contract before that happens because then he'll be out of here.
Yeah.
Honestly, boys, would it be out of the realm for the Avs to just give him a shot? Like with everything we just talked about and everybody else they've tried this year, they're like, whatever,
Honestly.
throw him in. Let's
Yeah.
just see. What
Bring
if
him
he's
up.
dope? I don't know. And if he's not, we'll
I
put him
don't
back
think
down.
so.
Hey.
If he was a big guy, If
Yeah,
he was
maybe if he
bigger
was
and a
bigger.
bottom 6 guy, then I would agree. But this is like he's 5'11", 170. Not necessarily like bottom 6 unless they wanted to create something. But
What are you
Um,
dissing?
I mean, it's just he's not a big body. Sometimes the fourth line is not necessarily fixed for that guy's size. So, yeah.
You
Totally
don't
fair.
know. It's all about the heart. It's not about the size.
Maybe you say
Somebody
so.
with heart, huge passion for the game.
I'd
Nate
say holy.
Dogg. Nathan McKinnon.
Ah, yes.
I have a ramble about this guy. He's had a 4-goal game against Washington. He's on a 4-game goal streak. He's got 9 goals in his last 10 games. He's been back and forth with Nikita Kucherov in the Art Ross race. He's on a 128-point pace last year, And this year, he is on pace for 140 points. So last year it's 1.56 points per game. This year it's 1.72 points per game. Holy crap. Yeah. Justin Bourne also noted McKinnon is playing hockey faster than anyone in the league. So I looked it up on NHL Edge. 178 more speed bursts, which is 18 miles an hour plus, than the next guy.
Oh
For
my
reference,
God.
McKinnon has 448. Point has 270. 18 mile an hour or more speed bursts. Here's the crazy part. You're like, well, there's probably a lot of guys in that range with Point. 8th place in the league has 168. He's got more than double the 8th place guy.
Yeah.
Nate McKinnon is playing playing hockey faster than the speed of light. Faster than my brain can process words to come out of my mouth. See? Nate McKinnon can think faster than you. He can think faster than me. He's probably in all of our heads right now. How do you feel watching him night in and night out doing this? Have you just like grown to expect it? Like, that's just Nate. When he does it, you're like, there you go, Nate. Good job. Yeah, there you go. You done it. Or are you still finding yourself going, wow, to this player?
Every time he scores, I go, woo! And then I go, woo, woo! And I fucking love it. I mean, like, I just love it. Every time. Every time. I can't help it. Like, I'll never lose the excitement when he scores. And it's funny watching at Ball Arena when he touches the puck, and it's not even like a scary, it's not even like a chance. He just like has it. The crowd just starts going nuts, like something's about to happen. Even, you know, when you hear the crowd doing that when like a 2-on-1 starts or like a breakaway starts, it's that same reaction when he just like randomly has the puck like back in their own zone. They're like, oh shoot, here it comes. And sure enough, like it's crazy. He's so fun to watch night in and night out. Yeah, that 4-goal game was, I felt bad for my neighbor. I was just screaming and screaming and screaming.
Who does he think he is, Austin Matthews?
Yeah. I know.
I know, amazing. Nate's been so good this year. It's hard to say that he's, you know, every year you want to say McDavid is the best ever. He's the best, great right now. He's great. Like, I mean, obviously he's not Wayne Gretzky, but he's the best in the league right now, and he's going to be the best every year. And you still have to see these players who have these seasons and recognize it. But when it's a guy who's constantly in competition and conversation of being the best player in your direct competition, and then he's just kicking your ass, I gotta say, it's pretty clear the best player in the league this year is Nathan McKinnon. McDavid's legendary 153-point year last year was 1.86 points per game. Do you think Nate gets up to that 1.86 points per game and ties or beats his 153-point year?
Oh man, I don't want to jinx it, obviously, but I would love to see it. The guy is, like, we know he's already on fire, and I think this last half is going to be even crazier. I looked at a month-to-month breakdown between him and Kucherov, and you know, their December, their January, and oh my God, it's crazy to see them going month to month, like the amount of points and goals they're putting up. Yeah, I want to see this last half because it might be something we're not even expecting. Like, he might go nuts.
Yeah, he could go insane. So, McDavid, he currently has 67 points. He's on pace for 127 at 1.55 points per game. 18 points back of first, 17 points back in Nate. Do either of you think McDavid could join the race at this point? And David Pastrnak has 72 points right now, only 13 behind Kucherov, and we're not having that conversation. We're asking McDavid because I don't think Pastrnak can. Do you think McDavid could still get up and in there and join Nate McKinnon and claim some of this title back and, you know, give him a run for his money and show that, no, I'm the best player in the league?
I mean, if anyone could do it,
it's McDavid.
He would be the guy. And I think,
It's eerie in here.
Yeah, I know. It's like someone behind me. That's how Nate probably feels. Just like, I feel that man behind me. But McDavid had a slow start, right? And I think that, he's ramping up just like the Oilers are. So
Just a
that
heater.
I'm excited to see this race because I think Nathan McKinnon's bound to have some points where he's not, scoring 9 out of 10 games. It's just bound to happen, and hopefully stays healthy all year. And I think that if McDavid cuts out some of those like no point games where, he does tend to get a lot of 4-point games as well. So I'm excited. Sometimes like last year was different because just like it was McDavid, like there was no question. But if you have McDavid in a chase and the guy he's chasing is McKinnon, like, that's entertaining.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's all out west. Great entertainment. Great job, NHL.
I'll stay up for the last week of the season just to see that.
I guess that's the point. No,
Yeah.
That's a great point. You put it all out west, and out west hockey doesn't do as well out east. But if you put the best players out west, then they're going to stay up and watch it.
There you
Their
go.
Only once a
lives are just going to suck because they're going to be tired all the time at work,
Yeah.
and things are going to go downhill, and it's all going to be because of hockey. But that's fine, as long as they're watching out west hockey games.
Yeah. I think if the NHL had their pick, they would have all of the star players play on the East. I think that would just be how it is because, it's like you said, like I'm only willing to stay up the last week of the season to watch that. It's like I obviously stay up for a lot of the late games, but to say that I'll commit to it is far and few between. So, yeah.
I personally think all the teams should play in the East, and all the games should, or at least all the games should start at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That would be fantastic. Or it'd be even better if they just had them periodically through the night. You had one at 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, 8, and then primetime TV. You want to watch 8 to 11. I mean, that's not so bad. Start a 10 o'clock game. Like, I got to work at 5:30, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. How am I going to be up to do that? And that's a lot of people that are watching these teams that aren't going to be able to watch out West hockey, and the product's just not going to be there for the East Coasters. That's what I think.
Yeah.
All
You
games
can't
should be at
you can't
7.
have it at 7 because like 4 o'clock's too early to fill up a building on a Wednesday. Like
I don't care about them. I wasn't even thinking about them. I'm fully thinking about me in this. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. 5 o'clock. I mean, you could maybe convince them to do 6, and they do a lot of the time. Like that's how we get their 9 o'clock games once in a while. But yeah, it definitely sucks. But it's the world we live in.
Yeah, for sure.
Time
How are we
zones.
doing on time, Producer Ted? Can we go into the media?
If we got one, yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we have a question from, and
From who?
yeah, couldn't read it. Mark. Oh, guys. Dinino. I'm sorry, Mark. Dinino.
Dinino?
We got a question
Yeah.
from Mark.
It's time to media the media.
Dinino. It's definitely Dinino. So Mark Dinino, he says, what will it take to finally fire Keefe? He's a perennial playoff loser making terrible ice time management decisions. Many will agree he is not the guy to coach this team to a cup.
It's hard to argue with. If I was going to, Sheldon Keefe, I think is a great coach. I think that there's a lot of young teams out there that, if he does move on, they should give him a shot and bring him in.
100%.
I don't necessarily know, based on how he's been out-coached so many times, is he really a playoff coach? So is he that? I don't think so. What will it take for him to get fired? Like, more than that. I feel like if they lost in the first round again, it would be hard to say that, like, we're either changing the coach or players or both. So I think that would be if we took a step backwards, then I think that would be when you fire him. But like, we've already gone on a bad streak of losing in a regular season. The closer you get to the end of the season, the less likely it is that you're going to fire a coach. So I think we're passing that area now. So that would be the soonest that he could be, would be, a playoff exit early.
Yeah, just a bad result. Yeah.
Yeah.
My answer to that is I think it draws another question. It says, can you really blame Keefe?
Yeah.
I mean, if you gave me Play-Doh right now, I could not build you a home that you could live in. Maybe the problems are higher up than that. If you give me a turd, I cannot polish it out to make it beautiful. There's nothing I can do when I don't have the right pieces. And I think Sheldon Keefe wants a different built team. He obviously wants a shutdown line that he hasn't had in a while. And I don't even know if he's ever had a shutdown line on this team. And I think
Ryan
you
O'Reilly
really
was
can't
pretty good
blame
at it.
the coach when the management hasn't been giving him all the tools necessary to succeed. He's been doing his best with what he has. So I don't know. Is it really time for us to fire Sheldon Keefe? Man, I don't know what else you do if they're bad. Like, because all the other guys are pretty much locked in. You're screwed. Like, what are you gonna do? You gotta fire the coach, I guess. What are you gonna do? You can't trade anybody, so not anybody of substance, anyways. So
it would be time. Coaches have a lifespan.
Yeah, I guess you're right. He's been here a few years, but the COVID season, we're always going to give him a couple extra years before that because
That's
he
fair.
never really had it. He had a couple of seasons where he never had full seasons. First half of his coaching year wasn't played, and then the whole second year was only a 56-game season or whatever. So
Does Brad Treliving really care, though?
2 or 3. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if the problem is even at Brad Treliving's level.
That's
it might
true,
be
yeah.
a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Than that.
Yeah.
The Shanna plan is looking messy.
Yeah.
Shanna plan. Yeah, so that's our answer. For now, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us for Split the Defense Hockey Podcast. Make sure to like this podcast on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Subscribe to our YouTube, rate us 5 stars anywhere else. And if you really liked us, leave us a review. Find us on X at STDP Hockey and search for Split the Defense with an S. Everywhere else to stay up to date with what we're doing. Until next time, peace.
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 Thanks for tuning in to Split the Defense Hockey Podcast.
Split the defense.
Hosted by Jordan Webster, Craig Pearce, and producer Ted Evans. Split the Defense is presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004, serving the Kingston and surrounding areas.